Blake Lively is accusing It Ends With Us star of sexual harassment. We're going to get right into the complaint that Blake Lively has filed. It's displayed here on my screen. As you can see, the attorneys have filed a slew of claims. Sexual harassment, retaliation, failure to investigate, prevent, and or remedy harassment, retaliation in violation of California Labor Code, aiding and abetting harassment and retaliation, breach of contract, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, false light, invasion of privacy, interference with protective economic advantage. So there are a number of allegations here that we're going to be going through today in regards to Blake Lively's just recently filed complaint. We all know Blake Lively from Gossip Girl, one of the former hit drama series back in the early 2000s. She also has starred in movies such as Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and she has become pretty much a pop culture sensation, an actress, very talented actress in my opinion as well. We're going to move on to the first part of the complaint, just to give you all the background of how this all came to be. The media has been reporting that Blake Lively has filed a legal complaint in California against her It Ends With Us co-star and director Justin Baldoni, accusing him of sexual harassment on set and trying to orchestrate a public relations campaign to destroy her reputation. Wow. Lively's counsel said the Friday complaint was filed with the California Civil Rights Department, a precursor to a lawsuit. And because you often, if you're filing an employment lawsuit, there are certain what they call administrative remedies that you have to exhaust first. So she has to file apparently with the California Civil Rights Department before she can actually bring a lawsuit in California court. So this complaint names as defendants Baldoni, his Wayfarer Studios production company, others associated with the 2024 film It Ends With Us, and some public relations consultants. The complaint alleges Baldoni and the firm's producer co-defendant, Jamie Heath, engaged in repeated sexual harassment and other disturbing behavior. So among the allegations are that Baldoni barged in on Lively in her trailer when she was nude, improvised unwanted kissing scenes, inappropriately discussed his sex life, ordered repeated takes of unplanned sex scenes, allowed his friends to watch Lively sex scenes being filmed, and told her he had not always received consent in sexual encounters. And the complaint also includes numerous messages that were sent between Baldoni and some co-defendant public relations consultants in which they allegedly conspired to ruin Blake Lively's public reputation after filming was completed, to retaliate against Lively for raising her concerns about Justin Baldoni's alleged behavior and to defend against potential negative press against Baldoni. The messages were purportedly obtained through a subpoena. So what the public also did not know was that this was the beginning of a multi-tiered plan that Mr. Baldoni and his team described as social manipulation designed to destroy Ms. Lively's reputation. That plan was backed by virtually unlimited resources, Blake Lively says in the complaint. Billionaire co-defendant Steven Sarowitz, Wayfarer's co-chairman, also divulged at the film's New York premiere on August 6, 2024, that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Ms. Lively and her family, Lively says. With that backing, Mr. Baldoni and his Wayfarer associates embarked on a sophisticated press and digital plan in retaliation for Ms. Lively exercising her legally protected right to speak up about their misconduct on the set, with the additional objective of intimidating her and anyone else from revealing in public what actually occurred. So let's dive right into this complaint. When you look at the first page of this complaint, you will see that there is an introductory overview of what Blake Lively's lawyers are saying has occurred. So here's the first page of the complaint that lists all of the defendants and the claims. Here is the introductory paragraph, and the complaint reads that on January 4th, 2024, prior to resuming filming of It Ends With Us, following guild strikes, an all-hands meeting was convened to address the hostile work environment that had nearly derailed production of the film. So this film is still in production. Moving forward, the complaint states that Attendees at the meeting included Justin Baldoni, who is the co-chairman and co-founder of Wayfarer Studios, the owner of the film, as well as the director, executive producer, and actor in the lead role of Kyle Kincaid. So this person, Justin Baldoni, who Blake Lively says has sexually harassed her, he is the main guy. He's the lead role. He's a director. He owns the film. The other defendants are Jamie Heath, the chief executive officer of Wayfarer and producer of the film, Angie Giannetti, the film's representative for its distributor, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Alex Sachs, a producer, Todd Black, a producer, and Blake Lively, who played the role of Lily Bloom in the film. Ms. Lively also had the agreed upon right to have a representative present. She chose her husband, given that the meeting was about repeated sexual harassment and other disturbing behavior by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. That's a good way to intimidate people who are sexually harassing you. Bring your husband to the meeting. As discussed in detail below, Ms. Lively was forced to address concerns about Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's misconduct with them directly, and began doing so months before filming began. The concerns she raised were not only for herself, but for the other female cast and crew, some of whom had also spoken up. So now we're getting into the situation where Blake Lively is claiming that this is a systemic violation. This is not just impacting her, but other individuals on the set as well. The January 4th meeting occurred only after Wayfarer had rebuffed Ms. Lively's efforts repeatedly. During the January 4th meeting, the parties discussed in detail the inappropriate conduct that Ms. Lively, her employees, and other cast and crew experienced at the hands of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. After the list below was reviewed and discussed in its entirety, all parties present agreed that the outlined conduct would cease. Okay, so they have this list here in the complaint. No more showing nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife. No more mention of Mr. Baldoni's or Mr. Heath's previous pornography addiction, or Blake Lively's lack of pornography consumption to Blake Lively or to other crew members. No more discussion to Blake Lively and or her employees about personal experiences with sex, including as it relates to spouses or others. So I'm not going to read through that entire list of 11 different topics, but I have displayed that there on the screen. You can read through the topics that were allegedly discussed at this meeting, and we're going to go to the next page of the complaint where, oh my gosh, where the list continues. So this is actually was the meeting agenda here, where it talks about all the things that were supposed to have been discussed at the meeting. And allegedly, after the meeting was over, all parties agreed that the outlined conduct would cease. So there's actually 30 different things on that list. No more retaliatory or abusive behavior, Blake Lively, for raising concerns or requesting safeguards. So Blake Lively is saying, not only did you sexually harass me, but you're also retaliating against me for having raised my concerns. So at paragraph 4 of the complaint, she states this meeting was an essential step in a process the parties had agreed to several months before to allow the cast and crew to safely resume production of the film. In mid-November 2023, the parties had agreed in writing to implement a list of protections enumerated in a contract entitled Protections for Return to Production. Attached here to is Exhibit A, which included 17 provisions designed to require Wayfarer to cease the on-set behavior of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. One of those provisions required an all-hands meeting to confirm and approve a plan for the implementation for certain protections that will be adhered to for the physical and emotional safety of Ms. Lively, her employees, and all cast and crew moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's actually look at, I want to look at Exhibit A. So I'm going to flip through the complaint here. We're going to go to Exhibit A so we can actually see, oh my gosh, this complaint includes certain messages. They're putting in the receipts in this complaint. So this is a lengthy complaint here, as you can see, friends. We're upwards now of over 30 pages. Let's go to Exhibit A because I want to show you what they're referring to when they are referring to this alleged contract that was as between the parties. So Exhibit A, here we go. So Exhibit A, which is at page 64 of this complaint, is this email, it appears, where it's talking about the fact that there's going to be an all-hands meeting. They're going to discuss things that need to change. Certain things certainly have been redacted from here, as the parties are permitted to do. They can redact certain things as part of their filings, which they have done so. Personal emails, of course, implicate a lot certain privacy issues. It says, Dear Emin and Joseph, with the tentative resolution of the SAG-AFTRA strike, we are writing to address how to handle a return to the set of It Ends With Us. It is no surprise to the film's producers that the experience of shooting the film has been deeply concerning on many levels. The complaints of our client and others have been repeatedly conveyed and well documented throughout the pre-production and photography. While we reserve all legal rights at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film, as long as the set is safe moving forward. In order for our client to feel safe returning to the production, we are attaching a list of protections that will need to be guaranteed and observed by the film's producer. So this is Blake Lively's attorney writing on behalf of Blake Lively. And so here they go. We talk about protections for return to production. That's on the next page. This actually goes into detail as to what Blake is asking for. In order for Blake Lively to be able to return to production of film, each of the following protections must be agreed to in writing and met without fail going forward. An intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Blake Lively is on set. I wonder what the role of an intimacy coordinator is. I think that probably has to do with the sex scenes or the intimate scenes. She wants I think it means that she wants a third party present. There must be a closed set during the rehearsal or filming of any scene involving simulated sex or nudity, and any observation via remote monitors shall be restricted to essential personnel as approved by Blake Lively, to be further described in a fully negotiated, fully executed SAG complaint nudity rider. And this is important because she is a SAG actress. She is a unionized actress, so she does have certain rights under SAG as well, not just under the law that protects all employees as against sexual harassment from an employer. So Blake Lively has requested all of these different things. The list goes on to the next page as well. These are the things that her attorneys state that Blake Lively will need in order to feel safe returning to the set of It Ends With Us following the strike. So the actors are supposed to be coming back from strike, and Blake Lively says, we need these demands met. So let's go back to the complaint. And this is a very extensive complaint. I mean, that Exhibit A was at page 63. So here we go. Let's go back to the complaint where we left off. Okay, so on page 4 of the complaint, we go on to state, Ms. Lively goes on to state, she says that after reviewing the document, Wayfarer responded that Wayfarer, Sony, and production respectfully acknowledge that Ms. Lively has concerns regarding safety, professionalism, and workplace culture. Although our perspective differs in many aspects, ensuring a safe environment for all is paramount. Despite differing viewpoints regarding your outlined requests, we find most of them not only reasonable, but also essential for the benefits of all parties involved. So Blake Lively's attorneys are raising the fact, and they italicize the fact, that this was agreed to by all. The production company did say that they find these requests to be reasonable in order for all actors to return to set safely. At the end of the January 4 meeting, having discussed at length the details of concerns that have been expressed by Ms. Lively and others, the parties agreed to implement and follow the protections for return to production to ensure that the film could be completed, marketed, and released safely and successfully. And it was. Production of the film resumed on January 5th and concluded on February 9th, 2024. The film has been a resounding success. Leading up to and in connection with the release of the film during the summer of 2024, Ms. Lively and fellow cast members promoted the film in accordance with the marketing plan created and delivered by the firm's distributor, Sony, which is summarized in the talking points attached hereto as Exhibit C. Ms. Lively and other cast members were under a contractual obligation to render promotional services in accordance with the marketing plan. The marketing plan directed the cast to, quote, focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about domestic violence, and to avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. So in the days leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and the type of publicity activities in which he had previously participated. What the public did not know was that Mr. Baldoni and his team did so in an effort to explain why many of the film's cast and crew had unfollowed Mr. Baldoni on social media and were not appearing with him in public. To that end, he and his team used domestic violence, quote, survivor content to protect his public image, as described in further detail below. So on the next page, and this was, according to Lively, this was in contrast to what the marketing plan was supposed to be. Page 5. What the public also did not know was that this was the beginning of a multi-tiered plan that Mr. Baldoni and his team described as social manipulation designed to destroy Ms. Lively's reputation. That plan was backed by virtually unlimited resources. Wayfarer's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier is multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, who divulged at the film's New York premiere on August 6, 2024, that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Ms. Lively and her family. With that backing, Mr. Baldoni and his Wayfarer associates embarked on a sophisticated press and digital plan in retaliation for Ms. Lively exercising her legally protected right to speak up about their misconduct on the set, with the additional objective of intimidating her and anyone else from revealing in public what actually occurred. On July 31st, 2024, following the recommendation of their publicist, Jennifer Abel, Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni retained a crisis communication specialist named Melissa Nathan and her company, the agency group PR LLC. Ms. Nathan delivered a proposal to Mr. Baldoni, which included a website to discuss full Reddit, full social account takedowns, full social crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audience in the right way, start threads of theories. This is the way to be fully 100% protected. Ms. Nathan also proposed the creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change narrative and stay on track. Per Ms. Nathan, all of this will be most importantly untraceable. As Ms. Abel described it, the plan was to engage in social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the negative as well as social manipulation. This plan went well beyond standard crisis PR. What Ms. Nathan proposed included a practice known as astroturfing, which has been designed as the practice of publishing opinions or comments on the internet in the media that appear to come from ordinary members of the public, but actually come from a particular company or political group. On August 2nd, 2024, TAG circulated a scenario planning document to Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and others, which described preparation and strategy should Ms. Lively and her team make her grievances public. So they were preparing this PR crisis backup plan in case Blake Lively spoke out about what allegedly had happened on the set. So then the complaint states that this is attached here too as Exhibit D. To get ahead of this narrative, Ms. Nathan's plan proposed strategies to advance misleading counter narratives, including pushing Nathan's narrative that Ms. Lively had less than favorable reputation, proposing to explore planting stories about the weaponization of feminism, and misleadingly blaming Ms. Lively for production members' job losses. So so look at these text messages. We're gonna talk about these text messages here. And then it says, initially, Mr. Baldoni expressed concerns that TAG's written plan was insufficiently aggressive to protect him. Writing to Mr. Heath and Ms. Abel, he said that he was not in love with the document they sent. Not sure I'm feeling the protection I felt on the call with Ms. Nathan and her colleagues. In response, Mr. Heath attempted to reassure Mr. Baldoni that they had found the right people for his campaign. In Mr. Heath's words, the most important part of this is how quickly they can shut things down and place stories in your favor. You're being Mr. Justin Baldoni's favor. The next page of the complaint states that later that day, Ms. Abel and Ms. Nathan exchanged the following text message expressing that Mr. Baldoni, quote, wants to feel like Ms. Lively can be buried. Ms. Abel and Ms. Nathan agreed that, of course, they would do just that, but could not say so in writing. We can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. Oh, my God. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. Oh, you mean kind of like these text messages are ending up in the wrong hands? Okay, friends. So look at those text messages between the PR person, Ms. Abel, who was hired by Wayfarer Production and Justin Baldoni to protect him against Blake Lively's allegations. So the next part of the complaint, Ms. Lively states and represents that Ms. Nathan followed this by assuring Ms. Abel, you know we can bury anyone, but I can't write that to him. Wow. A few days later, on August 5th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni set the narrative for the social media campaign, sending Ms. Abel, the publicist, a screenshot of a thread on X that had accused another female celebrity of bullying women. Mr. Baldoni stated, "This is what we would need." Ms. Abel responded that she had just spoken to Melissa about this, about what we discussed last night for social and digital. Ms. Abel added, focus on Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, with reassurance that Ms. Lively would be destroyed and buried. Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni directed Ms. Nathan and her team to actively engage in their retaliatory social manipulation campaign. This is absolutely, if these allegations are true, this is absolutely inappropriate and potential violations of law. You cannot retaliate against an employee for raising legitimate concerns about sexual harassment on the job. And that is what the set is for actors and actresses. It's their job. In the weeks and months that followed, with the direction and approval of Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni, the team engaged in a sophisticated, coordinated, and well-financed retaliation plan. The retaliation campaign relied on more than just publicists and crisis managers spinning stories. They also retained subcontractors, including a Texas-based contractor named Jed Wallace, who weaponized a digital army around the country from New York to Los Angeles to create, seed, and promote content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. The Baldoni Wayfarer team would then feed pieces of this manufactured content to unwitting reporters, making content go viral in order to influence public opinion and thereby cause an organic pile-on. To safeguard against the risk of Ms. Lively ever revealing the truth about Mr. Baldoni, the Baldoni Wayfarer team created, planted, amplified, and boosted content designed to eviscerate Ms. Lively's credibility. They engaged in the same techniques to bolster Mr. Baldoni's credibility and suppress any negative content about him. On August 10th, the day after release of the film, Ms. Nathan's team reported that they had, quote, started to see shift on social, due largely to Jed and his team's efforts to shift the narrative against Ms. Lively. That same day, Ms. Nathan noted that as part of this shift, the majority of socials are so pro-Justin, and I don't even agree with half of them, LOL. Oh my gosh, that is awful. If she's really, if these text messages are authentic, that's absolutely awful. I mean, wow. Wow. Okay. So moving on, paragraph 21 of the complaint alleges that Ms. Nathan then bragged to Ms. Abel that Mr. Baldoni doesn't realize how lucky he is right now, by which they were referring to their successful efforts to shut down stories that would have revealed how Baldoni's behavior, including sexual connotations on set, had made cast and crew beyond Ms. Lively uncomfortable. Less than 1 week later, they again bragged about how they had shut down stories regarding HR complaints on set. On August 15th, 2024, Melissa Nathan remarked that this went so well. It was genius. So, okay, we have the four majors standing down on HR complaint. Well, why on earth would they put this in writing? That's what I'm wondering. If you're spending all this money on a campaign, to protect against besmirching Mr. Baldoni's reputation, but yet you're putting all this incriminating information in text messages. Does that make sense, friends? Let me know in the comments. And if you're getting value from the stream, I ask that you hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get our first 100 subscribers on Christmas Day. We're at 94 right now. We are a brand new channel. We go live every day with celebrity legal news. On the next page of the complaint, 23, Ms. Lively states on August 16th, Ms. Nathan circulated a Daily Mail article entitled String of hard-to-watch videos that have surfaced following tone-deaf Q&A to promote It Ends With Us could tarnish 36-year-old star Golden Hollywood image for good, to which Ms. Abel responded, wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece. And Ms. Nathan replied, that's why you hired me, right? I'm the best. So is Blake Lively set to be canceled? That was the article. And they're talking about this in a very incriminating way. Not so smart to put that all in text messages, now is it, when you're plotting in that manner? So next, we have paragraph 24, as their own words reveal, the purpose of this social manipulation plan was twofold. It aimed to both conceal the pattern of harassment and other misconduct by Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer, and retaliate against Ms. Lively by battering her image, harming her businesses, and causing her and her family severe emotional harm. Millions of people, including many reporters and influencers who saw these planted stories, social media posts, and other online content, had no idea that they were unwitting consumers of a crisis PR, astroturfing, and digital retaliation campaign created and funded by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer to hurt Miss Lively. That is precisely the goal of an astroturfing campaign, to light the fire and continue to stoke conversations secretly, blurring the line between authentic and manufactured content and creating viral public takedowns. As laid out in this complaint, the Baldoni-Wayfarer-led public attack of Ms. Lively was the intended result of a carefully crafted, coordinated, and resourced retaliatory scheme to silence her and others from speaking out about the hostile environment that Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath created. As such, it was not only unconscionable and a breach of contract, but it also was illegal under both state and federal law. Ms. Lively brings this action to hold Wayfarer and its leaders, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Mr. Sarowitz, accountable for the ongoing retaliation, threats, and harm they have caused Ms. Lively, other cast and crew, and all of their families. Here's the factual background. And remember how brave Blake Lively is to file this, because as an actress, when you're filing, the former director that you worked with, you're filing against the production company. You're filing this civil rights complaint with the Civil Rights Department in California, and you're basically threatening that you're going to file a lawsuit if they don't resolve things through the Civil Rights Department. Blake Lively is very courageous and brave to do this, because this could have implications for other producers and other production companies and directors not wanting to work with her. So let's look at the factual background that Blake Lively has alleged in her complaint. Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath of Wayfarer engaged in inappropriate and unwelcome behavior towards Ms. Lively and others on the set of It Ends With Us. Mr. Baldoni launched Wayfarer Studios along with Mr. Sarowitz in 2020. Mr. Heath serves as Wayfarer's chief executive officer. Mr. Sarowitz is a leading financier of Wayfarer, and Mr. Heath, and Mr. Baldoni are all close personal friends. Under the Wayfarer banner, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath have many platforms, including the Man Enough podcast, which they co-host. So these are also podcast hosts, so they do have a platform to ruin Blake Lively's reputation as well, if they wanted to, through that medium as well. So Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath have positioned Wayfarer as a male feminist platform that explores gender roles, dismantles toxic masculinity, and creates a safer and judgment-free society for women. Oh, really? That's their platform. Interesting. Mr. Baldoni serves not only as the co-founder and co-chairman of the studio that financed and ran production on It Ends With Us, he also served as director, executive producer, and co-lead actor, playing the role of Kyle Kincaid. As studio head and director, all actors, crew, and staff on the film, including Ms. Lively, answered to Mr. Baldoni. In his words, he was the leader who sat at the top of the totem pole. While Sony was the distributor releasing the film, Wayfarer was responsible for the production, and Wayfarer was led by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. Oh, okay, so she's going after the main guy. All right, so this is very interesting. So let's read what she says next. So Blake Lively states that production of the film began in early May 2023 and lasted until it was suspended in mid-June 2023 due to the Writers Guild of America strike. During that time, Ms. Lively and other cast and crew experienced invasive, unwelcome, unprofessional, and sexually inappropriate behavior by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. Because Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath held all leadership positions on the production, because they held all leadership positions on the production, they answered to no one and brushed off or ignored the concerns Ms. Lively and others expressed. Mr. Baldoni ignored well-established industry protocols in filming intimate scenes and exploited the lack of controls on set to behave inappropriately. Wayfarer failed to adhere to guild rules as well as Ms. Lively's contract and standard industry safety protocols with respect to nudity and intimate scenes, which the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists acknowledges, quote, place performers in uniquely vulnerable situations. Such safeguards ignored by Wayfarer include providing performers with appropriate notice of nudity and simulated sex and ensuring that consent is given free of pressure or coercion. Signed nudity riders are in place, spelling out the parameters of nudity or simulated sex scenes. Safe and secure working conditions that are not determined to a performer's health, safety, morals, and career, and the use of intimacy coordinators to observe intimate scenes. So there are supposed to be these third parties, these intimacy coordinators are supposed to be there to help protect the actors as they're going through these sex scenes. Without these protections in place, Mr. Baldoni improvised physical intimacy that had not been rehearsed, choreographed, or discussed with Ms. Lively, with no intimacy coordinator involved. For instance, Mr. Baldoni discreetly bit and sucked on Ms. Lively's lower lip during a scene in which he improvised numerous kisses on each take. Mr. Baldoni insisted on shooting the full scene over and over again, well beyond what would have been required on an ordinary set and without advance notice or consent. On another occasion, Mr. Baldoni and Ms. Lively were filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which no sound was recorded. Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Kyle. Instead, he spoke to Ms. Lively out of character as himself. At one point, he leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips from her ear and down her neck as he said, "It smells so good." None of this was remotely in character or based on any dialogue in the script, and nothing needed to be said because, again, there was no sound. Mr. Baldoni was caressing Ms. Lively with his mouth in a way that had nothing to do with their roles. When Ms. Lively later objected to this behavior, Mr. Baldoni's response was, "I'm not even attracted to you." Oh, wow. Mr. Baldoni improvised gratuitous sexual content and or scenes involving nudity into the film, including for an underage character in highly unsettling ways. After Ms. Lively signed on to the movie based on the draft of the script, Mr. Baldoni, without Ms. Lively's knowledge or consent, personally added graphic content, including a scene in which Ms. Lively was to orgasm on camera. When Ms. Lively objected to these additions, Mr. Baldoni insisted he had added them because he was making the film through the female gaze. Oh, yeah, he's such a feminist, right? Although he agreed to remove the scene, he made a last-ditch attempt to keep one in which the couple orgasmed together on their wedding night, which he said was important to him because he and his partner climaxed simultaneously during intercourse. He then allegedly intrusively asked Ms. Lively whether she and her husband climaxed simultaneously during intercourse, which Ms. Lively found invasive and refused to discuss. Some of these allegations are incredibly graphic. So we don't need to go through every little bit here, but on the day of shooting the scene in which Ms. Lively's character gives birth, and then she makes more allegations about that, the birth scene, and suffice it to say, she is alleging some very serious allegations against this director who was in a superior position to her, a position of power on set. To add insult to injury, Mr. Heath approached Ms. Lively and her sister on set and started playing a video of a fully nude woman. Oh, my heavens. So these are some really heinous allegations if they are true. At this point, we don't know whether or not they are, in fact, true, but these are the allegations that Blake Lively is making. And so Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath discussed their personal sexual experiences and previous porn addiction and tried to pressure Ms. Lively to reveal details about her intimate life. So again, she's alleging that there was completely inappropriate conversation that was had by these men in power on the set as against her as the person who was reporting to them. She was under them. They were Mr. Baldoni was the director. He was the lead role. He owned the film production. Mr. Baldoni objectified Ms. Lively and other women by commenting on or criticizing their bodies. That is her next allegation. So she talks about that in this portion of the complaint. So we don't need to go through all of the gory details of that. But then at the next part of the complaint here, Ms. Lively states that Ms. Lively and others lodged grievances regarding the conduct of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath, which Wayfarer declines to investigate. So she's saying As the studio as producing the film, Wayfarer was the employer of all of the cast and crew and was thus responsible for ensuring workplace safety on set. However, Wayfarer failed to provide Ms. Lively with even rudimentary employment protections such as employee handbook, sexual harassment policy, information, or any training on sexual harassment, discrimination, or respectful workplace expectations. They also failed to provide her information about the process and procedure for filing HR complaints. So as a producer and owner of the film, Wayfarer was legally obligated to address HR-related concerns or complaints. To Ms. Lively's knowledge, however, Wayfarer lacked any process for responding to complaints about its leadership, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath, who plainly were not going to investigate themselves. So we move on where she talks about basically that they did not meet their obligations to investigate her complaints of sexual harassment. The parties negotiate a contract rider regarding Mr. Baldoni's and Mr. Heath's conduct on the set of It Ends With Us. So on May 2nd, 2023, the Writers Guild of America, made up of 2 American labor unions representing more than 16,000 writers in film, television, radio, and online media, went on strike in connection with a labor dispute with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. The film temporarily halted production in June 2023 as a result of WGA picketing. On June 15, 2023, Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni announced the continued halted production of the film due to the ongoing strike and the lost days experienced from picketing. While the strike was underway on July 14, 2023, the American Actors Union, known as SAG-AFTRA, a labor union that represents about 160,000 people in the entertainment industry, including actors, recording artists, radio personalities, and other media professionals, began to strike due to a labor dispute with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. The WGA strike ended on September 27, 2023, and the SAG-AFTRA strike ended on November 9, 2023. So now we're getting back to when production can resume because these strikes have terminated. So Ms. Lively goes on to say, before returning to production, Ms. Lively attempted to address and resolve the problems on set and required that Wayfarer agree to address the conditions described above. On November 9, 2023, Ms. Lively's attorneys provided Wayfarer's attorney with a document entitled Protections for Return to Production, Exhibit A. In conveying the protections for return to production, Ms. Lively requested that Wayfarer agree to implement a plan that would enable everyone to return to work and complete the film with adequate protections to ensure a safe set moving forward. On November 11, 2023, counsel for Wayfarer indicated that Wayfarer, Sony, and production respectfully acknowledge that your client has concerns regarding safety, professionalism, workplace culture. Although our perspective differs in many aspects, ensuring a safe environment for all involved is paramount. Irrespective of differing viewpoints regarding your outline requests, we find most of them not only reasonable, but also essential for the benefit of all parties involved. So Blake Lively is saying, you agreed that these were necessary. And I'm going to go back to that Exhibit A, where it shows you the email from Blake Lively's counsel to the production company. Here is Exhibit A, saying that we need to address these issues, and attached are the protections for return to work. And they said these are the protections that Blake Lively needs to have in place in order for her to feel safe continuing to come back to the set and work with you all again. And according to Blake Lively's complaint, she's saying that they did agree to that. There was an agreement, a meeting of the minds, that the production company said it's not only reasonable, but it's also necessary in order for people to come back on set. So the next portion of the complaint states that in the next portion of the complaint, they go on to state about the failure again to actually follow through with this promise. Blake Lively saying, hey, look, we all had this agreement. You did not uphold your end of the deal. And this is why she has filed the civil rights complaint. It's not a lawsuit yet. She has to go through the California Civil Rights Department before she can file a lawsuit against her employer. So next, on November 11, 2023, counsel for Wayfarer indicated that these were also essential for the benefit of all parties involved. On November 15th, 2023, Wayfarer, through It Ends With Us Movie LLC, agreed to the terms in a contractual rider executed on January 19, 2024, and attached here to as Exhibit B. Among the contract rider's provisions, the first provision required that an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Ms. Lively is on set. The second provision required that with respect to artists, any and all rehearsal, filming, reviewing of video playback, or dailies and or any other interaction with any scene involving simulated sex, nudity, and or partial nudity shall be restricted to those persons with essential business reasons for being present, as approved by Ms. Lively and Todd Black, as further described in the nudity rider attached as Schedule I. The third provision required that there is to be no spontaneous improvising of any scene involving intimate sexual physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity with respect to Ms. Lively. Scenes involving Ms. Lively that involves kissing, depiction of sexual intercourse, or any other intimate sexual physical touching must be contained in the screenplay. The most up-to-date draft approved by Ms. Lively in writing, choreographed in advance in the presence of the intimacy coordinator, and may only proceed as coordinated with the consent of all participants in advance. So then it continues to go on. This Blake Lively's complaint continues to spell out specifically what was listed in the rider that she and the production company had agreed to. They said, we will address these grievances, allegedly, and we're going to go ahead and agree to all of these things. So it talks about provisions up through the 10th provision. The 10th provision required that there shall be no retaliation of any kind against Ms. Lively for raising concerns about the conduct described in this letter or for these requirements. Any changes in attitude, sarcasm, marginalization, or other negative behavior, either on set or otherwise, including during publicity and promotional work, as a result of these requests, is retaliatory and not unacceptable and will be met with immediate action. The 12th provision required that Wayfarer will engage an additional experienced A-level producer approved by Ms. Lively, Todd Black is hereby approved, to actively supervise the production, including monitor the safety of the cast and crew. Because remember, she's lodging a complaint against the individuals who are the leads of the company who own this film. The 15th provision required that any rehearsal or shooting involving Ms. Lively and any other performer depicting the character of Lily that involves nudity or simulated sex must be conducted strictly in compliance with the nudity rider and must adhere to the approved script. So it goes on and on and on to talk about all the different things that they agreed to, that there would be this all hands in meeting providing for the contract rider that had occurred on January 4th, 2024, before production resumed. The meeting was attended by Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, producer Alex Sachs, producer Todd Black, and Sony's Angie Giannetti, as well as Ms. Lively and her husband, who attended as Ms. Lively's request, at her request as another designated representative, as provided for in the contract, given the subject matter of the meeting. At the January 4th, 2024 meeting, the parties discussed a list of 20 examples of the behaviors that gave rise to the contract rider from her contemporaneous notes. These behaviors are listed in full earlier in this complaint at paragraph 3. Neither Mr. Baldoni nor Mr. Heath denied the veracity of Ms. Lively's examples, so that they didn't say, oh, there's no reason for these concerns. They didn't say that. Ms. Lively requested that Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath agree that such behaviors would no longer take place, as memorialized in the language of the rider, and Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath agreed. So production concluded, and Ms. Lively and other cast and crew promoted the film according to the marketing plan. So we kind of talked about that they have these obligations as actors to go ahead and promote the film after its conclusion. So they went ahead and marketed according to the plan. In advance of the release of the film, nearly all cast members chose to appear in public separately from Mr. Baldoni. Given his on-set behavior, Mr. Baldoni became concerned that the public would discover that something is much bigger under the surface, alluding to the complaints lodged by Ms. Lively and others. At that point, Mr. Baldoni pivoted away from the film's marketing plan to explain his absence from the rest of the cast. He shifted his focus away from a message of female triumph to instead capitalize on female trauma. After the film's premiere, Mr. Baldoni changed his Instagram profile, canceled lighthearted social media posts and instructed his team to look for survivors' reactions and support, all in an effort to quickly shift his own public narrative to focus solely on domestic violence survivors and domestic violence organizations. Ms. Abel continued, Ms. Abel, the publicist, cautioned Mr. Baldoni that this shift might be too drastic too soon, but still he insisted on a TikTok strategy and that his promotional activities for the film should seek to amplify what he described as survivor content. So he's deviating from the script, even though his publicist is warning him that this could be too drastic. The team followed Mr. Baldoni's instruction. For her part, Ms. Abel concluded it doesn't feel performative now that you've done major substantial press on the topic. On August 11, 2022, Ms. Abel laid out a posting timeline to Mr. Baldoni and the team by stating theater surprise, and then I think survivor content first thing tomorrow, and which then will be helpful for new cycle. By repositioning Mr. Baldoni's marketing of the film on information and belief, Mr. Baldoni hoped to create the false impression that he had chosen not to appear alongside other cast members. Mr. Baldoni directed his team to share on his public Instagram feed the private messages he had received from survivors sharing their stories of domestic violence with him. Mr. Baldoni's team talked him out of this idea, writing that they do not recommend using private DMs as content. Mr. Baldoni went so far as proposing to share a video of a woman's birth moment, but his team talked him out of it, warning that it might be perceived as weird and as too intimate. Still, Mr. Baldoni's team was more than willing to deploy survivor stories, reactions, and images to protect Mr. Baldoni's image. Wow, he was really kind of going to an extreme here. So next, the complaint of Blake Lively continues to allege Mr. Baldoni and his team formulate a retaliatory plan. So once again, she goes into detail, great detail, about how they utilize the services of a publicist to try to harm and destroy her reputation because she had raised concerns about the alleged sexual harassment that had occurred on set. A month after Mr. Baldoni's first promotional event for the film, Ms. Lively and others in the cast fulfilled their first publicity obligation for the film without Mr. Baldoni. They did not publicly discuss the misconduct that had occurred on set, nor did they ever suggest to Wayfarer or Mr. Baldoni that they intended to discuss their concerns publicly. Yet on June 20th, 2024, Ms. Abel texted Mr. Heath her concern, quote, "We can't have fans starting to guess why JB, Justin Baldoni, is left out of this stuff." So the publicist was concerned that the fans would start wondering why the cast wasn't wanting to associate with Justin Baldoni. So next, they said Blake Lively complaint states Wayfarer engages Melissa Nathan and the agency group on behalf of Mr. Baldoni to launch a retaliation campaign against Ms. Lively. So her complaint then details the social media seeding that took place. There's a strategy called astroturfing where they're planting false narratives. They're trying to make it look online as if legitimate commenters are commenting, where in reality the comments are coming from a specific company or a specific organization to try to make it look like it's coming from a member of the public. So these are the allegations that Ms. Lively is making. Their team of crisis specialists. By July 31st, Wayfarer had started to put together a timeline of events to be shared with Ms. Nathan and TAG. According to their own planning document, the purpose of Ms. Nathan's engagement was to help Mr. Baldoni get ahead of the narrative and mitigate bad press that might arise from Ms. Lively's and others' HR complaints becoming public by engaging in techniques such as a rapid response communication system, something called cataloging third-party advocates willing to provide a potential quote or engage with reporters on Mr. Baldoni's and Mr. Heath's behalf to mitigate negative narratives from a source outside of Wayfarer. So basically, they're detailing the campaign that was set forth to go against Blake Lively and try to ruin her reputation. So next at 109, paragraph 109 of the complaint, the Ms. Lively alleges that Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer perpetrate a retaliation scheme against Ms. Lively. Ms. Abel, Ms. Nathan, and others employed or engaged by TAG perpetrated a retaliation scheme against Ms. Lively in collusion with Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer. The scheme was what TAG described as a social manipulation plan, relying on direct and constant media engagement, the seeding of content on traditional social media platforms, the boosting of content, sometimes the very content that TAG and its affiliates had seeded, the suppressing of negative content about Mr. Baldoni, and the amplifying of negative content about Ms. Lively. On August 1, 2024, before any of the cast sat down for interviews at the film's press junkets, Ms. Abel stated to Mr. Heath and Wayfarer personnel that she had held an in-person meeting with a contributor to People, Fox News, In Touch, and Us Weekly. Ms. Abel explained that during the meeting, she had fully briefed the contributor of the situation with Ms. Lively. Ms. Abel stated that the contributor was armed and ready to take this story of Blake weaponizing feminism and assured Mr. Heath that the contributor will do anything for us. So this publicist, Ms. Nathan, is basically saying that the media outlets that she's working with will do anything that they are asked to ruin the reputation of Blake Lively and to protect Mr. Justin Baldoni from Blake Lively's allegations. So this runs real deep, friends. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them on the live. And if you're getting value from the stream, please subscribe to the channel. This is Sped Up News. We come live to you every day with live streams on the entertainment and celebrity legal battles that are going on right now. So as we continue on to this complaint, Blake Lively states that on or around August 2nd, 2024, Ms. Abel connected the contributor with Ms. Nathan. Subsequently, Ms. Nathan engaged directly with media sources on behalf of Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer regarding Mr. Baldoni, Ms. Lively, and the film. So then Blake Lively's attorneys go on to really go into great detail about this scheme of retaliation that was engaged in by the publicist and the production company Wayfarer and Justin Baldoni, the alleged perpetrator of the sexual harassment. And they do a really good job of interspersing text messages into the complaint. And they're coming with the receipts, friends. They're coming with the receipts, right? They're not just, you don't have to take our word for it. Their attorneys are saying, we are bringing the receipts. So now we're up to paragraph 131 of this complaint. And at paragraph 131, the complaint states on August 9, 2024, Ms. Abel and Ms. Nathan discussed suppressing 2 stories that report Ms. Lively was uncomfortable on the set. So they're really going out of their way to try to suppress negative press for Mr. Baldoni and emphasize press that would harm Blake Lively. So this is a very detailed complaint, friends. They set everything out here, interspersing in the text messages that have been obtained. It sounds like through a subpoena. And we're ultimately going to get out to the claims that Ms. Lively is bringing. So they're saying that Mr. Baldoni also retaliated because HR complaints regarding his behavior threatened his feminine brand, because he has a podcast where he tries to allege that he hoists women up and that he is espousing feminine views and viewpoints. So this, again, Blake Lively goes into great detail in this complaint, alleging that he has retaliated against her. Ms. Lively, her family, and her businesses have suffered and have been substantially harmed by the Wayfarer party's conduct. Because you can imagine, as an actress in the industry, having this negative press out about you can greatly harm Blake Lively's future employment opportunities. So they go into great detail about the social manipulation campaign that was engineered by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer against Blake Lively. The attorneys did a good job of putting in her damages and how she has been impacted by this. The effect on her professional life was immediate and it was substantial. And they gave some strong examples of how this harmed her. And honestly, this has got to be so difficult for Blake Lively, because it has got to be courageous to come forward and stand up against the former production company that she worked with, this former director who is powerful in the industry, because this definitely, even filing this lawsuit, could endanger her future prospects for work. The retaliation against Ms. Lively has damaged her companies as well. The long planned launch of her hair care line, Blake Brown, a date which was set more than a year prior, was caught up in the crossfires of the negative environment against Ms. Lively. So she has been impacted, sadly, in a number of ways, this complaint alleges. Her family has suffered. She has suffered emotionally. So then we get now to the Exhibit A. This is the email from Blake Lively's counsel to the production company saying that these, this was when there was a strike, and they said, well, before we can agree to come back from strike, we need you to assure us that Blake will be provided the following protections for return to production. And then these are the other exhibits that we talked about and referenced throughout the complaint. So this is the real complaint that was filed by Blake Lively. These are all authentic legal documents. And friends, I have practiced at a national law firm, I have been involved with civil rights complaints such as this, and it really is a very difficult situation, and it takes a long time because you have to exhaust your administrative remedies first. Blake Lively has to file first with the Civil Rights Department in California before she can then file a lawsuit in California court. So that's the stage where we're at right now, friends. We are at the stage where she has gone through, she has filed the Civil Rights Department complaint with the Civil Rights Department California. If this issue is not resolved with the Civil Rights Division, then she will be able to sue in California court and bring her claims there. But I'm going to remind you, look at all of these claims that she has filed. Her attorneys are definitely working and burning the midnight oil with all the different allegations that she's alleged here. She has filed for sexual harassment, which violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and California Code 12040. She has filed for retaliation, failure to investigate, prevent, and or remedy harassment, retaliation, violation of California's labor code, aiding and abetting harassment and retaliation, breach of contract, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, false light, invasion of privacy, interference with prospective economic advantage. Because she's saying, hey, look, this is harming my ability to work. This is harming my reputation. I'm having monetary damages as well. So again, friends, and false light litigation, false light claims are very interesting. That's a type of a tort claim. So it's interesting because there's something called defamation, and in order to prevail on a defamation suit, there's a number of things you have to prove. First of all, you have to prove that the statements were not true, because for defamation, in order for someone to have committed defamation, the statement has to be untrue. However, there is something else called false light, which is a different type of tort where you can actually be still penalized for making a true statement about someone. So you can actually make a statement about someone and publicly disseminate it and still be punished for it, even if it's true. And that's called false light litigation. It's a very unique type of claim, because sometimes, friends, even when we say something that is technically true, it's still, we say it in such a way or with such context that it presents that person in a false light. And that's the nature of this tort claim. And it's an invasion of their privacy. So I'm really interested to see how this litigation continues to move forward for Blake Lively. We all know her from Gossip Girl. She won all of our hearts as Serena on Gossip Girl, which is this huge mega hit back in the early 2000s. She starred with Leighton Meester. She starred with Penn Badgley, all of whom have gone on to do great things. It was an amazing cast. She was also an actress on the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. She is a very accomplished actress. This lawsuit and being involved with this, sadly, even though she's the alleged victim, sadly, it's very harmful to her and her businesses, and it could potentially put her out of work. Other producers, production companies, directors may not want to work with her based on this lawsuit. But at the end of the day, She will have the opportunity to move this through the Civil Rights Department in California, and she will have the opportunity, if this is not resolved in the Civil Rights Department of California, she can file in California State Court. So friends, let me know in the chat if you have any questions. I'm here live every day on live stream for Sped Up News. I am an attorney myself, so I have a unique perspective to be able to review these legal filings with you. I have a unique perspective. I've practiced in civil litigation. I've handled civil claims that have involved invasion of privacy, false light, intentional infliction of emotional distress, some of these types of charges here. Now, remember, nothing on this channel is legal advice. In order to get legal advice from an attorney, you need to go to someone who's licensed in your jurisdiction and talk to them about your specific set of circumstances and facts. However, we are here every day for legal commentary on the celebrity news. And we just covered Sean Diddy Combs. We've been following the Jay-Z drama, the Jay-Z, Quinn Emanuel, Tony Busby, Sean Diddy Combs cases. We've done a lot of live streams on those, and we've been getting a lot of great engagement, a lot of great comments from y'all on the Sean Diddy Combs coverage that we've been dealing. We've been going live almost every day on that story. We've also been following the Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie litigation, where the judge in the Brad Pitt Jolie lawsuit has just ordered Brad Pitt to have to disclose documents that Angelina Jolie says will prove, according to her, that he is guilty of domestic violence against her and the party's children, some of whom are now much older. So we're covering the Vanderpump Rules litigation. I just did 2 extensive, long, lengthy videos on all of the Sandoval, all of the Tom Sandoval, Ariana Madix, Rachel Leviss filings, including the cross complaint that Tom filed against Ariana, but then he later alleged that was a mistake. So we are following the Give Them Lala trademark infringement action. We are covering the Trump immunity cases in regards to his allegations and claims that he has immunity even as president-elect. We are covering all this here on Sped Up News. So subscribe to the channel for daily live streams on all of the celebrity legal battles. And like I said, we go through real legal pleadings. I read through the attorney letters with you. I put them up on the screen. We read through all of the complaints, all of the exhibits, and I give you all of the details and the deets, I guess, about this. I bring the receipts, as I guess the young kids would say. So go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We are a new channel. We started posting a few weeks ago, but we do come to you live every day. We've already reached over almost 50,000 views in our first several weeks, and we've already almost gotten our first 100 subscribers. And friends, we ask that you subscribe and help grow our channel. I think this morning we're at like 91, now we're up to 94. So subscribe to the channel, because it would be a wonderful Christmas present to us to be able to get to our first 100 subscribers on Christmas Day, friends. That would be absolutely amazing. Help support the climb. I want to create a space here on YouTube where you can come every single day to get live news with live legal pleadings that were just filed hot off the presses, that I go through in detail and talk with you about and break it down to explain to you what all is going on in the legal world. I come to you, like I said, live every day on live stream to talk about celebrity news. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Guys, let me know in the comments what you're most interested in hearing about. We love engaging. We've got so much great commentary in the comments from our Sean Diddy Combs videos. The Jay-Z's been pulled into the whole Sean Diddy Combs, Tony Busby, Quinn Emanuel legal saga. The attorneys are sniping back and forth. Jay-Z is filing very rapidly, filing to try to move to strike the complaint against him by the anonymous accuser. So we've covered that story as well. And we're doing an amazing, I will say, we're doing an amazing job of kicking out these live streams every day, and you can always watch them on replay, but it means a lot to us for you. Come join us here live, because this is our favorite part of YouTube, is engaging with you guys one-on-one in the chat. Like I said, let me know if you have any questions. I'm actually going to start posting in the community tab so that we can start growing our community there on the community tab. I try my best to respond to every single comment. I think I've been pretty successful in responding to every single comment that we've been getting, because we understand, friends, we understand that without you, this channel would be nothing. We're growing this channel from inception, we started at zero subscribers 3 weeks ago. We're now almost to our first 100 subscribers, friends, and it means the world to us that you are here with us every day on our live streams. Please let us know in the comments what your thoughts are about this lawsuit that well, not lawsuit, about this civil rights complaint that Blake Lively has filed against her former employer for It Ends With Us, the film that is ironically about domestic violence. So friends, I look forward so much to seeing you tomorrow on our channel. Like I said, subscribe, help grow the channel. I will be back to you again tomorrow live here covering your celebrity and entertainment legal news. Thank you so much, friends, for joining me on Christmas, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.